All right. Welcome to the Mental Performance Playbook here. Breaking down elite mental strategies, delivering them in actionable exercises. That's the whole framework here, brought to you by the Athlete's Health, our business. This is the way to give out free exercises, free ways that people can use the mental side of the game. Got the guest episode here today. I'm very, very excited about it because this topic is bowling. And I feel like a lot of times people think you just go to the bowling alley and you just bowl. So much more to it. I know there's going to be so much pressure in the conversation, in the topic about it. You have a lot of time between the matches, between any time, and you just sit there and think. You're in the doubt. So I'm excited here. We got Coach Andy Diercks on here. Just a quick background, then I'm going to have him do more introduction. Got Mount Mercy head coach there since 2015. Also part of the Team USA, junior Team USA coach and staff since 2017. Got some background here. This is going to be an amazing conversation. Coach, if you could give a little introduction about yourself, how you got into the sport, how you got to where you are now, and then we're going to dive deep into mostly the mental side of the game, but we'll see where it goes.
Perfect. I very much appreciate you inviting me to do this. I love talking bowling and I love talking the mental game. It is something that I think is really taking us to the next level in our program as well. I'm Andy Diercks, as you said. I grew up in Iowa, so I'm an Iowa born and raised, corn-fed, if you will. I started bowling when I was 4 years old in this tiny little 4-lane bowling center in a little town called Alta, Iowa, surrounded by cornfields.
What part of the state is that in?
Northwest corner of the state.
Northwest,
So
okay, I
yeah,
don't know.
way up in the northwest corner. Later we moved to the big town of 5,000 of Cherokee, Iowa, is where I graduated from high school. But that's kind of where my journey began. I mean, my first bowling ball was drilled at Kmart, if you can believe that. Like, the same guy that makes the paint drilled my bowling ball. He didn't know what he was doing. So it's a different world. Now I run a pro shop and realize how intricate that side of it is as well. But I bowled through youth league, met my wife during youth league. We got married in a bowling center. So it is a big part of my life and my journey. And then basically right out of college, I was invited to volunteer to coach youth leagues in Des Moines, where I was currently just where I was assigned to work. I got moved around a lot with the company I worked for. And that proprietor paid for some coaching training to send me to get certified for kind of the beginning training stuff, and sent me to a few more trainings as well. And I just got kind of hooked on the learning side of it and the teaching side of bowling, and ended up finding that I actually enjoyed that side more than I enjoyed bowling myself. I still compete and I still bowl, but not at the same level that I used to try to, because I just kept diving deeper and deeper and deeper into coaching. Fast forward, move around a few times with my job, and then settled here in Eastern Iowa and was coaching here at youth leagues in Cedar Rapids, and then started coaching high school at Linn-Mar High School.
I saw that, yeah.
And so that's when I really got into the team stuff. I had done private lessons for quite a while and worked with people privately from youth programs and things like that. And then when I got into the team coaching, it just really opened my eyes to a whole different world, which is just way more fun, way more intricate, way more exciting, more camaraderie. And so that kind of led me to a journey and helped a little bit with the Mount Mercy program when they first started. And then the job opened up in 2015 and I went all in. In the meantime, I've gone to tons of trainings and clinics, and I started traveling around with a company called International Art of Bowling. And we brought a camp to Cedar Rapids, and that was owned by Jason Belmonte, Deandra Asbeatty, and Ron Hoppy. And Jason Belmonte is one of the greatest bowlers on the planet. 6-time PBA Player of the Year, something like that. Just an incredible record. And he has 5 or 6 more majors than the next closest in total majors won. He's like the Tiger Woods of bowling. But he wasn't then. In 2012, when I was working with him, he had only won 1 title, and he was just kind of really coming on the scene and revolutionized the sport. But I learned a lot from that experience of traveling around the country and doing clinics and things like that, and coaching kids that wanted to learn more. and give back. And right about the time he was kind of going this way with his career and getting too busy to kind of do the clinics, the Mount Mercy job came open, and I opened a pro shop, and then so now I'm a coach
Yeah.
full time. That's how I got into it full time anyway.
I saw the stuff about the pro shop, and I forgot to put that in there too,
Yeah.
because that's a pretty big feat in itself, I feel like,
Yeah, it is.
to
It's
have
there's a
them.
lot to it. I mean, there's way, way more to the science of where we put the holes on the bowling ball, how it fits the hand, why we do what we do in the pro shop, how we adjust for different flexibilities and different abilities. Even how they throw the ball changes how you need to drill the holes for they exit the ball consistently. So
That was my first thought when you
yeah,
said you took your first bowling ball just to the painter to drill the
yeah,
holes.
it's just
I was like, "Oh, that
yeah,
only
this
will
guy,
work so
yeah.
well."
Oh, I used
But,
to when I was a kid, I used to blister every single time I bowled, and I thought it was normal. And now if I have somebody coming in that's ripping open, I'm like, well, we got to fix this. Let's get this looked at deeper.
something needs
Yeah,
changed.
yeah.
My and so just to clarify, you weren't always thinking about going into coaching?
Not as a full-time job, I worked in the car business for a while. I ran movie theaters before when I was getting moved around. I got transferred to a lot of different theaters, and then I worked in the car business. My dad was a car dealer. My brother still works in the car business. But I was just doing coaching on the side during all of that. And then my wife actually said one time, she knew that I didn't love my work,
Yeah.
and she knew that every chance I got, I was coaching. I was trying to get out to the lanes and
Outside of it,
trying to
yeah.
help people, And then she said, "What are you doing at work when you're wasting your time and you should be working?" And I said, "I'm studying bowling." She's like, "Yeah, you need to figure out how to get that to be your job because that's your passion." And so, and she said, "And I think we can make it work." So, we kind of dove in, and with her support and kind of nudging, that's
Mhm.
that's where we went.
Yeah, it takes a lot of work, take a lot of effort to do that,
It
but
does, because it's hard to make money in bowling coaching, really. I mean, it's not something that is a highly paid career at the college level. We ain't making Nick Saban money.
yeah. Oh, don't e NIL and stuff is a whole nother
It
topic
is, yeah.
that we won't talk about right
Right.
now, because that goes into, yeah, where the money gets put into and everything else.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
crazy. Um, One thing that you're making me think about right off the bat that I think would be a good talking point is, what do you like the most about coaching? Because you've been doing it forever. And-
yeah,
Well, you've been bowling forever and then transitioning into the coaching piece of it. And that will tie me into some ways of where this conversation and go into the actual specific mental
sure.
performance pieces. But
Well, I've been
that's what
asked
I'm
that question
wondering.
a lot over the years, actually, and I think I've summed it up into basically one word: the puzzle.
Hmm.
And there's so many puzzles that come along with coaching. And in bowling, we have the puzzle of the lane condition and the transition and how that migrates and
Oh,
changes throughout the day.
I had questions
We
about that,
have
by the way.
the puzzle of how to match up your equipment to that lane condition and the bowling style. We have the puzzle of the athlete themselves and what makes them tick and how to get them to get into a flow state and to stick with the process and manage the ups and downs, the roller coasters. All of it's a puzzle. And I love trying to find the final piece and getting it put together and just seeing what the picture looks like.
So before we go into the actual mental side of the sport, can you explain this somewhat? Because I know I will have listeners who don't know as much about bowling. I was researching this before because I'm on the actual physical side of the bowling. I'm only just your amateur, go to the bowling alley and
Sure.
stuff. Okay, I'll be honest about it. But I was researching a lot of this. I did not realize that the lanes they almost change throughout the
Yes.
process. Can you explain that the conditions? Just be so then we have an understanding of, okay, this is more complex.
Sure.
Like there is more to this than you're just throwing the ball.
Yeah, so every bowling center in the world has they're varying styles, but the vast majority of them are made by one company called Kegel, and this is an oiling machine. And there's a computer in that oil machine that you can program lane patterns into the machine.
This was insane to me.
And so It's basically like a little Zamboni that runs down the lane,
Yeah.
and you can program in where and how much oil and how that oil is tapered both front to back and side to side to essentially control the playing condition. And it's invisible. You can't see it. On some of the PBA shows, they put kind of dye in the oils to try to give you a visualize
Mhm.
of what that lane pattern kind of looks like. But even that doesn't really do it justice because it's all microscopic at the really small level. But what that lubricant does on the lane is it changes when a bowling ball can encounter friction, and bowling balls need friction so that when a bowler imparts rotation on a bowling ball and
Mhm.
spin, it has to find enough friction to lose just enough ball speed to slow down so that it allows it to change direction so that we can enter the pocket at an angle. If you talk about, hitting the pins a little sideways,
Mhm.
they strike more. And that's why all the professional bowlers and stuff, they throw a hook, they curve the ball. And that is to create the highest strike potential. Well, we have to know when on the lane the ball is going to be able to change direction, what bowling ball to use to make it do that. That complements the bowler style plus the lane condition it's on. At a recreational level, they make these lanes really, really easy to play. So they have really
Okay.
dry boards on the outside of the lane, and it's really oily in the middle part of the lane.
Okay.
So if you curve the ball and you miss to the outside, it's like a bumper, essentially. It's like bumper bowling for adults.
Mhm.
So the ball will encounter massive amounts of friction, make it easy to change direction and come back to the pocket. And then if you miss to the inside of the lane, the oil is going to help keep the ball on line
Still
toward the head
straight.
pin and keep it from overhooking and also keep it from, pushing to the right. Like it's just going to go down the lane and help. So it gives you a bigger margin of error, essentially. And that's what leagues are bowled on for the most part and things like that. That's why
Mhm.
you can see somebody who bowls league 2 or 3 nights a week that averages 220, 230, and then you watch a PBA telecast and these guys are also shooting 220,
Yeah.
230, and you're like, oh, this guy in league, he bowls better than that all the time. I watch it. Well, not on the same lane conditions. So at the professional level, we make that oil flatter and wider so that your miss room is much, much smaller. It's like the difference between playing on a recreational par 3 golf course
Mhm.
and Augusta.
I mean, it's also almost just like you're outside and there's different conditions
Right.
is really
Exactly.
what it
And
is.
the thing that's the most challenging about bowling is that those conditions are invisible and they're ever changing. As soon as a bowling ball goes down the lane,
Yes.
the bowling ball is picking up oil. And then certain materials of bowling ball, depending on what kind it are, can redeposit oil down lane as well. So the lane condition is changing 100% of the time as bowlers bowl on it. And so you have to stay ahead of, anticipate that transition and pay attention to when the bowling ball starts to lose speed and when it wants to change direction so that you can stay ahead of that change.
Okay. So as you're bowling, because I learned that it's gonna constantly change, which was something I guess maybe I knew, but I didn't fully know. Let's walk through this process here first and foremost of what are you thinking? How are you approaching it when you're like first up and you're going through a couple of the bowls? And forgive me, what is it called when you actually throw the bowling ball?
Just a delivery. Yeah.
Delivery.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what most people call it.
I
Yeah.
lost that in my
Yeah.
notes. I'm sorry. But so as you're walking up and you're going through a couple deliveries, what is the thought process? And then I want to get into how do we actually like handle it as we're getting down the wire and what's happening.
So some of that depends on the information we're provided. There are certain
Okay.
competitions that they will give you a sheet of paper that shows the lane graph. So this is what we put into the machine, and therefore that's where we applied the oil on the
So
lanes.
some will show you.
So some you have some information to go on. Now every lane in the country, every lane in a bowling center plays a little different. The brand of lane material, whether it's wood, whether it's synthetic, even the type of synthetic lane that it is, will change how that pattern plays in that particular place, how old it is, all of that stuff. So all of those things are a factor as well, but you at least have some information to go on as a baseline. But some tournaments, we don't know the lane condition. A lot of our postseason events are blind. We have no lane condition. You don't know anything until
Okay.
bowling balls go down the lane. So the strategy becomes a little bit different depending on whether we have information or whether we don't have information. If we have information, we're going to use the graph to build at least these are the places we're going to try to play in our warm-ups and see what gives us the best look. And we're going to try a few different bowling balls.
Okay.
And then if we don't have the information, we have kind of a system
That's
of
what I was wondering.
where we're going to play, and and we have a timed practice. So we are rapid fire, and everybody kind of has their job on the team. Of bowler one's going to throw it here, they're going to slide in this part of the lane, they're going to throw the ball generally in this direction. Usually we're going to play somebody really close to the gutter, someone around. You see the arrows on the lane.
Yeah.
So every 5 boards there's another arrow. So we'll have people play more up the first arrow, kind of second arrow. We'll have people throw across the middle of the lane, across third arrow to the right and fourth arrow to the right, to see how much recovery there is on fresh oil in different parts of the lane. So so that we can sort of, based on when the bowling balls are slowing down and when we see them change direction, we sort of build a shape in our minds of where the oil is on the lane.
Where it is.
Yeah, and where it might transition later.
Because it's supposed to, this is now me just curious, it's supposed to break as it gets closer to the pins sometimes, or no?
Well, it depends on the length.
It just depends.
I mean, there's you'll never, if they oiled the lane all the way to the pin deck, nobody would hardly ever get it to hook. It would never hook. So about the longest lane pattern you'll ever see is like 50 feet. And that's 10 feet before the center of the head pin, where there's no oil past that applied to the lane. But there you can put a lane pattern. I mean, in a competitive condition, I've rarely ever seen a lane condition shorter than, say, 32 feet, at least in modern bowling. Back years ago, it would be different than that. But in modern bowling, 32 feet would be kind of on the short end of the lengths that we see, and the very long lengths are around the 50 feet mark.
So as you're doing that and you're starting with it to figure it out, because it is like you're going into an outdoor game not knowing the weather conditions at all and just going there. Your system, is everyone like attuned to knowing their role in their order? Like this, first we're figuring this out.
Yes, we practice.
And now we're going to.
You have to prepare to be ready for that situation, and everybody has to know what their job is before you get to that situation. So, and obviously, most of the higher level bowlers know how to observe what's happening, and they can see from other people's ball motions as well. But my primary role when we're warming up in that situation is to build the puzzle in my mind of what we're seeing.
And that'll tie me to, so at TH here, I have a framework that it does take any complex sports psychology into a simple step framework that you can process in. And what we're distilling here, unbeknownst to me, but once again goes to the framework, is a first piece of it is the clarity piece.
Right.
You got to have the vision, not only for like where you're going, what you want to do, but in the game, in the match, in the performance. You have to have that vision tuned and ready to go. So then you can move on to the next pieces that I have of confidence and composure. But I just want to point that out because what you're saying is that exact vision, and you prep for it too.
Right, exactly. And our clarity has to change as we see the lane transition through the day as well. But drawing a very clear picture in your mind of where you want your bowling ball to go is the only free way to play the game, because you can't control the outcome. You can't do anything about what the ball does down lane. All you can do is control where you throw it, what angle you throw it, what speed, what rotation, and then you have to let the lane do what it's going to do. And then you have to live with the result and make a smart adjustment based on the result.
So that's another big topic of it might be eyewash. I was told this by someone the other day, of the controllable pieces. Exactly. That sometimes that's just thrown out there and is just talked about a lot. But when you're saying that, go through one more time of how you're starting the bowl. The only pieces that you actually do want to think about, which are going to be those controllable pieces, but as to why, like how you guys focus on that. What's the process?
I mean, I think One of people have asked before, like, is bowling more mental or more physical? And I think to me, it depends on your level of play. I think,
I agree.
obviously, somebody that's new to the sport, it's extremely physical. You have to learn how to do the physical things that it requires to throw the ball efficiently, to create
Mhm.
as much power and rev rate as you can create, and learn those skill sets, right?
Yeah.
To be able to finish at where you intend to at the foul line, on command, and all of those things. Like, you have to have that foundation, that physical foundation first.
But currently,
And then once you have that,
we've been talking about the next level.
yeah, then that's when it becomes very much a mental thing. And so you should know the physical part. Like, the physical part should be relatively automatic. We've done enough repetition, we've done enough drilling and stuff like that.
That quote unquote muscle memory.
Exactly. Right.
Mhm.
Yep. You build the myelin in your brain, your body knows what to do. So now you just have to tell your body where to be. And then the minute adjustments that we do in bowling are how much side rotation we put on the bowling ball, which we call axis rotation, that kind of how much you come around the bowling ball to make it rotate. And then also the revolutions, how fast it's spinning, can be adjusted a little bit as well. Most of the time, people are trying to get that as high as
Get
they
that
can,
up.
because the faster you spin it, the more you can create pin action and things like that.
Mhm.
And then one of the most overlooked adjustments, honestly, that sometimes people aren't very good at is just speed adjustments. How fast are your feet moving and how quick are you getting the ball down the lane? Because the more or less elapsed time the ball is on the lane, it gives it more or less time to change direction and hook. So you can control your hook potential based on ball speed as well. So all of those are the things that we can control. Like, do we want to throw it normal speed, notched up, notched down? Do we want to get around the ball? Do we want to roll the ball and be really forward with it? Because that all is going to control where on the lane the ball is trying to read the pattern and change direction.
I'm so glad you break that down because in any sport, there's all the physical tweaks and
Yes.
twists,
Yeah.
but then to actually perform that outcome comes back to the mental state
For
and the
sure.
mental framework and how you're
So you have to
approaching
have a
it.
clear intention in your mind before you go. If you're going up there with doubt or question, you will not execute what you're intending to execute at all. Can't happen.
What is your guys' process just from what you found out from who you've talked to and through your journey to go up there and have that clear mind?
So I think one is that you have to make sure that they do have a clear mind of the path. That's probably the most important. The ball has to go where they want it to go on the lane.
Are we supposed to be
Hitting your target.
painting the path? Or
Yes.
yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
So they have to have that. And this is, of course, assuming we're going to assume pre-shot routines done. They're on the lane. They're
Oh yeah.
addressing the lane. Right.
We
We'll
we
talk
can
about
cover
that later.
that.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
yeah.
So they have to have a clear path in their mind of where they want the ball to go. But then, based on what's been happening, they have to know, is this going to be, am I throwing it hard right now? Am I getting around the ball a lot? Am I rolling the ball a lot? They have to know what release they want. And and depending on how advanced the bowler is, they're going to have more or less tools in their toolkit of
Mhm.
what their normal or what their rotations are. Everybody should have kind of a normal, a minimum, and a maximum speed. They should have a normal, a minimum, and a maximum rotation as well, at the very least. When you get to competitive level, so they got to know which of those kind of releases they're going to use, what tricks they use with their hand to make those things happen. Sometimes when people want to get around it, they might tuck their pinky underneath the ball so that they
Hmm.
get around a little quicker. There's some
Yeah.
things you can do physically to kind of remind yourself where you're at too. Um, how you place your fingers on the ball, how close they are together, how spread they are. All of those things can make a difference as well. So that once they have that in their mind, then they just need to repeat it. Then it's like
Yeah,
press
that's what I was
play
gonna say.
and then let their body do what it needs to do.
It's kinda it's
Yeah.
I would assume it's a lot of just focus on that of, "Okay, this is the positioning that we need to do," and just take your step and
Yeah.
keep those positionings
Yeah. And a
in
lot of
mind.
times we'll say, see your path,
Mhm.
and that's kind of cues that the players give to each other. A lot of times, we have them say their intention. Like, if there's one physical thing that they're really focusing on at the moment, to try to make them think of one thing that they need to lock into. Um, their teammate might say to them, all right, elbow in. if that's something they've been struggling with or whatever, and that's what they're locked in, and they'll say back to them, elbow in, and then they're going to lock into that physical thing, and then the rest of it they're going to let it be automatic.
Coach Dirks, I like to break another framework down to like vision, presets, and resets.
Sure. Yep.
And one, obviously the vision is like seeing the path, but then it's what can you, a quick saying, quick word or whatever to not think about the movement that you're doing and
Exactly.
just
Yep.
do the movement. It sounds like you guys, it might depend on what the
Yeah,
circumstance is,
every
but
bowler
it's gonna
kind
be
of needs their
different and you'll
own
throw it
thing.
in.
But we talk about that before we're ever up to compete, and they'll say what I need to hear from my teammates this is my intention, and to repeat that intention to me.
Oh, I love it. Let's go into, just so I don't forget, the pre-shot
Yes.
and what that entails in bowling. I have some ideas based on everything I know, but I want to hear it from you. What do we got for gist, and then we'll go in deeper.
I kind of think the pre-shot routine starts when you wake up in the morning. Like,
Oh,
but
I love to
I'm
hear
going
that.
way back. Like,
I love to hear that.
I think how you do everything is part of your routine. How you get up to prepare for competition. You know, a lot of people say that, people who wear the same socks or whatever, they're superstitious. What if they're not superstitious and they just have routines, and it
Oh,
just
it's
puts their brain in a
100%.
space?
Mm-hmm.
It's just like, if I do this the same way, that's when I get it. Like Kobe used to say, his Mamba mentality, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
so I feel like there's just routines that you get into that take you into this present mindset of being there. And now today I'm bowling coach, so I have kind of a routine that I do when I write some things in a notebook. They're the same things every time. It's evolved a little bit over time, but like for a season, like I'm gonna write the same phrases before I start to get ready for the day. And that's just one of my routines when I wake up.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm getting into coach mindset. Like, I'm not husband, I'm not dad anymore. I'm coach. And,
Coach.
that's who I got to be for the next, 10 hours of when we're competing.
Mm.
And so, and trying to keep that routine consistent. When we leave from the hotel or from wherever to where we're going, we have our time set to the minute. We might leave at 6:21 a.m. to get to the bowling center. It's going to be specific because that
Mm-hmm.
routine, like, everything matters. But then when you go into smaller pieces of just the act of bowling, we always say, we work with a sports psychologist, Dr. Dean Hinnitz, that I've worked with many times on Team USA as well. And he always has, to drop into contract with who you are as a player, as an athlete. And those contracts change in the areas of your life too. You're a different
Yeah.
contract when you're in a relationship, and you're a different contract when you're an athlete. Um, and so lock into that contract of who you are as the beginning of the pre-shot routine. And that's different for everybody. Some people are into their headphones, and they're
Was
writing
it
their
what
affirmations
when
down or whatever.
does locking into that contract start for you?
That starts,
For your team?
yeah, that starts like when they're putting their shoes on.
Okay. Okay.
Like when you're lacing up, you're getting your shoes on, you're getting ready to go. That's kind of when you're locking into contract. Then they lock into contract as a team when they huddle up and they express their intention of the day, and that I'm all in. And that's their intention. They all huddle up. I don't even know what they say in the huddle. That's their thing,
Yeah.
but it's just a routine that they do.
Is the huddle something that you prescribed, suggested, or is it something that they came up with them
It was
whole self?
something I'd suggested, but it's evolved into something of their own
Yep.
that they've kind of created. Right.
I've seen that happen many
Yep.
times.
So it's kind of one of those things of like, all right, locking together, but it's become definitely their own thing for sure. Um, and then and then in the competition moment, it is when you're the next person up. So the person up, you have to observe their shot, because you have to know what happened with their bowling ball. When did it see friction?
Okay.
When did it change direction? Because that needs to inform your intention
Mhm.
before your shot. And then once you make that intention, if you have a question, we'll talk about it. We'll talk to your teammate. They'll say, did you like that shot, or did you move on that shot? That kind of thing, so that they can make sure
Okay,
they
yeah.
stay ahead of it and they have awareness.
Because my last thought on that too, just in the bowling aspect, you obviously you have so much reps under your belt. Do you when you're observing their shot, do you have ideas of how the lane might change, or does it not change from one to the next? Or
It sort of depends.
it's a little
When
bit sidetrack topic, but
No, but it depends on, like, if we've switched lanes, like, if
Mhm.
you bowl on the left lane and then you switch to the right lane,
Yeah,
those 2 lanes could play very differently, and if we haven't been on that lane yet, then we have to really
really
pay attention
focus.
to that first bowler, because if they throw a shot that they intend and it's a really good shot, and the ball doesn't do what we think it's gonna do down lane, bowler two's gotta make an adjustment and hope that we're right on that one so that we can line up the next strikes. If bowler two makes the adjustment and it's not quite there, bowler three's got to figure out, okay, how much more or less do we need to move to make their shot better? So when you line up the team, then yes, it's super important to pay attention when you switch lanes. And then after each game, we switch pairs. We go to a completely different pair. Who we followed's different, where they played on the lane's different, what types of bowling balls they threw are different. And so you can only be informed by the bowling balls that went down the lane as to what to do.
It's a whole new start.
Yeah,
And,
exactly.
before I move on from that topic, because as you were saying that, start from the morning, I totally agree. A lot of athletes that I work with, we don't always do this. It just depends on the need and what we're working on. But one thing I commonly say is it's like a charge up cycle. From like when we wake up, we're getting you charged up. That does not necessarily mean really amped up,
Right,
but it
exactly.
just means getting you ready for whatever that needs to be for you coming into the game. And that's why I've not heard about that contract piece of the I love that actually of implementing that right before now it's go time when you are lacing up, when you're
Yeah.
getting ready. That's really good. Into matches, how because the score, it all adds up.
Yep.
What's it like going through it and down the stretch to the is it the same fundamentals? Is that the goal? The same fundamentals that we've already covered?
Yeah, basically, I mean, what we always try to talk about is don't let the moment get too big. Like everything, no matter what part of the tournament we're in, whether in match play finals, whether we're going for a national championship. I mean, obviously, your brain can't completely ignore the environment,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
That's impossible.
Just had a kid.
Under
I
TV
just had a kid
lights,
tell
like,
me that today.
yeah,
Yeah.
your brain can't ignore it. But I do believe that you can control what your brain is focused on. So
Mhm.
well, you can't ignore the red balloon that flew by, you know, your brain's going to acknowledge that existed, but you can say, I'm not worried about the red balloon right now. I'm worried about what's here. And that's where the pre-shot and your breathing and your routine comes so important, because no matter where we are in the world, the lane is 42 inches wide, 60 feet from the foul line to the center of the head pin. The tip of the third arrow is 15 feet. Like, we know all those things. Those are
Mhm.
fixed things.
Yep.
And those
Fixed
don't
variables.
change,
Fixed
right?
variables.
Exactly. So we have to try to make sure that our routine is that fixed as well. So at least that doesn't change in the environment that we're in. Now, I recognize that that doesn't mean that your heart rate's not elevated when the TV lights come on and things like that, when it's a
Mhm.
different from qualifying in a long block. But the stronger your routine is, the better your breathing is, the better you are at managing the physiology of
Yep, that's
arousal,
huge.
then the easier it is to just do your routine and throw another shot.
The physiology will
Mm.
100% drive the psychology, and
Yes,
it it
100%.
it does, and that's where I'll hit on this piece in a topic. We can probably we'll go over this topic of how do you guys like handle a bad delivery, handle one that doesn't work too well, or handle the thought switching over. And I'll get to that in a second. But as you were saying that, like the red balloon flying by, like I'm just picturing this because I use this one commonly, and when as we get to younger, it always works. So I know it works for older
Right.
too. But I always say, don't think about. Get ready for this. Get ready for. Don't think about a pink elephant, and that's immediately what you
Yeah,
start thinking
you're
of.
gonna think of it. Yeah, for sure. You just pictured a pink elephant.
Yeah,
Everybody does. Yeah,
exactly,
yeah,
and that's where that language piece too of what you were saying of going into it, only the pieces that you can focus on, control to think about those, because then that hopefully will help the delivery and the end result
right.
of it.
Exactly.
That does get me into that next piece
So
of
that
go ahead.
actually, if I could bring like, I hear this all the time
Let's
where
hear it.
don't think, don't overthink.
Yeah, and uh-huh.
I don't think it's possible to overthink. I think it's possible to think the wrong things. That's all
I like
overthinking
that.
is. You're just thinking the wrong things. You're in results brain. Anytime that people say they're overthinking, they're thinking about results every time. They're just not articulating it that way. So if you are focused, if you're truly focused on process and how I'm going to get to the foul line, where my target is, what my path is, and how I'm letting this thing go, if that is your focus, then all the other thoughts will go away because you're so occupied on those things that they can't interrupt you. Like they don't have the power to interrupt you if you're
Mhm.
focused enough on enough small things at a high enough level.
It's a very common circumstance where I was talking to a parent yesterday because I think this parent talks to me more than the kid does.
Yeah.
but but he was like, during the game, I could just see like now we were just thinking about the bad play, the bad mistake, and everything. I was like, well, what are we saying? And this makes me think about this. So no, just don't think about it. Don't think about it. Like, let's fill it with something to think about because what
Exactly.
you
Yes.
said,
Replace the space.
what
Yeah.
you said was that was powerful. Because I honestly haven't heard about it that way. You said, say say one more time what you said at the start. Like you don't want them not to think.
Yeah. You can't tell your brain what not to think. You can only tell your brain what to think.
Yeah.
Like that's it. Like
It's going to be thinking.
yeah, you can't and if you don't fill the space with intentional thought, you're going to get unintentional thought or not helpful thought.
Like even if you're in that quote unquote flow state of, oh, he's not thinking at all. No, he's probably thinking, I'm just going to get another strike.
Yeah, they're
Like
just locked into their path.
we're
Like that's
going.
all that is. The flow state, it just means that you are so hyper focused that literally nothing can interrupt your thought. There's no
I
other
like
thoughts
it.
are allowed in.
Hyper
It's like a
focus.
barrier. It's a barrier. That's all it is. It's just hyper focus.
That's what it is. It's not, they're not thinking about anything. It's their hyper
They're
focus.
hyper focused. I mean, if you've ever been in the flow state, like when I have in bowling, like the lane almost looks only the width of the ball path I'm trying to hit.
That's
Like, and
awesome.
everything else is fuzzy. I guess.
I can't say I have had
Yeah.
that happen to me in
So,
bowling, but one day, I will because that is awesome. And it's such a huge point, that flow state. I'm gonna have to use that one now because I've not really thought about it like that as the hyper focus. Because so many people I think, oh, we're not thinking, but you can't.
your
The
brain is incapable of not thinking. That's why we dream. It's not capable of shutting off. We die when it shuts off. Like that's
it's always using the
it's
energy.
all so you just have to tell it what energy to use. Like I really believe that.
The other thing that makes me ponder is that people then maybe think, or saying think so much, they may think that they can think themselves into the flow state, but that's also not really how it works.
Right, exactly.
It's a complex situation that you get into through, this will be a good leeway, some of these reset pieces. So
Yes.
this will be another great piece because I know you're going to need it because in bowling, you're up there and you're bowling. Like
Yep.
you got your time up there and then you sit back down, you wait till the next time.
Right.
What are some ways that it does not go as planned, not the best delivery, you get up to the next one and do it? I like, for instance, a couple resets, like this will be just a very common one.
Mhm.
Like George Kittle has a video online, so I always use this, of a reset button on his wrist.
Yep.
Like it's a physical reset. You can have physical ones, you can have visual ones, you can have audible ones. There's so many different ones.
I'm a
But
big believer in a physical reset.
okay.
Physically do something because you have to then consciously think about my brain is doing this and telling me to release this. Because
Mhm.
if you I think if you mentally do it, you could still very easily allow other thoughts to push it away. You know what I mean? Like if
It
you
does.
physically move your body to do something, it's a physical thing of saying, nope, it's over, like George Kittle does. But in bowling, like we have rosin bags is a really common thing. So um, the right side of the brain tends to be more of your emotion and stuff like that. A lot of times comes into play, and so um, the right side of the brain kind of controls the left side of the body. So I encourage people to kind of, if they got a reset, squeeze a rosin bag or something with their left hand.
Okay.
Activate that right side of the brain. Get yourself back into to erase that and kind of erase that emotional state. Um, Wipe the bottom of the shoe. A lot of like you'll see a lot
Yeah.
of professionals do in bowling. A lot of that is mental resets.
And I don't think people always, I mean, because I didn't know about this till I got so invested in this whole um, sports psychology, performance psychology. But feel like I know when I was more of an athlete, like you just think people are doing it. Like they're just wiping their shoe.
Yeah,
Like how they're just shaking, they must have an itch or something. They're just shaking it out.
yeah.
But there is an actual reason that they're doing it.
Well, it's like baseball players that do the unvelcro the gloves and revelcro and all that. Like those things don't loosen up from one swing. They're resetting for the next shot. Like that's what they're doing. They're just re-getting it's the next one. And we have a common saying that we always say on the team is so what next shot. And that doesn't matter if they threw 10 in the pit and it was a great perfect strike.
Yeah, yeah.
So what next shot?
You can't have the highs be too high and you can't have the lows be too low.
Exactly.
You got to stay
Yeah.
in the middle. And I love to think about that. Let's see. What else do you have for us, coach? I'm pulling up my doc, but
I
that was a big point that I wanted to get into.
Yeah, I think resets are really a lost part of the routine, I think. Because I think a lot of people think that the reset only has to happen when something bad happens. But I think the reset, excuse me, has to happen all the time.
Yeah.
Every shot, you
Oh,
have to do
yes.
the reset because you're starting over to do the next shot. So I think the more habitual that you get into doing a reset, regardless of outcome, the more you can do it effectively on the negative outcomes because you just do it every time.
I'm glad you bring that up because when I'm working with any athlete or family or team, I will say, try and do this in other activities. If you're in music, do it in music. If you're in school, do it in school.
Yeah,
Do it at work because you'll build the patterns more.
100%. Yep.
And I was just gonna say, I always hit on this to do it during the good times too,
Right. Yeah,
just
exactly. You got to do it
so the
after the good
pattern
ones
doesn't
too.
build.
So you just change. You know, one of the things that you asked kind of in a preliminary to our meeting was about how bowling is different with the time between shots mentally
Mhm.
and how it can be unique. Well, I have an athlete on the team that she's young, a freshman, extremely talented player, really passionate about hockey, and
Yeah.
she was really struggling sometimes this year letting go of a bad shot and doing a
Okay.
reset and getting into a routine. And so I said, could you imagine if a hockey player took as long as you do to reset after miss? The
Uh,
puck would be up and down the ice 4 or 5 times before they reset.
uh,
Be a hockey player, get rid of it quicker. So now we kind of have a cue just between me and her. I'll just say hockey puck. If she's
mhm.
not letting it go fast enough. And she gets it. Like it's okay. All right. I
Yeah.
need to do my reset. I need to get back locked into contract. And that's just kind of become our thing. But I feel like, every athlete's a little bit different what their trigger is and what's gonna make them kind of to get that. But
Oh, yeah. Yep,
you
100%.
know, so one of the things that is unique about our sport is, when you have to wait for 4 other players to bowl and then you switch to the other lane and all that, there's a lot of time to dwell on bad stuff.
You're thinking.
Yeah, you're thinking, and it's a lot of times can be not the things you want to be thinking. So that's another thing that's interesting. And I also think that people that struggle with pressure, like, when you're on a field and everything's moving really fast, it's not that they don't feel pressure, but you don't necessarily feel a spotlight on one individual. I think free throws in basketball are very different than shooting a 3-pointer on the run
Yep.
because they are spotlighted. Everybody's watching them. It feels different because of that. And in bowling, it's almost every shot feels like that, especially if you're on a television show or in a final or in a championship, because nothing can happen until you throw the ball and you're on stage and everybody's eyes are on you. So that is a very different feeling than, you know, 11, 22 players running around a field in a football game. Yes, people are watching, but it's not one person highlighted all the time.
Yeah, if that's one common thing as I have been starting this. throughout the years now, where I knew basketball a lot because that was one of the main things I liked growing up with, and I saw people go through the pressure of it and not know how to handle it. But as I've evolved and got more into it, like I played every sport growing up, but then people were like, "Oh, you need to get into baseball because
Yeah.
it's like you're at a free throw every time. It's like you're up to bowl every
Yes.
time you're up to
Yeah.
bat." But
Very
for
similar.
bowling, I'm so glad you bring that up because yeah, it is. It's you're the only one. Everyone's looking at you. And then even if you're in the amateur, just having fun bowling, you get in your head and you get upset.
Yeah,
And you get mad because
for
everyone's
sure.
watching you and you're the
Yep.
one up there. It's crazy. Before I run out of time, before I forget, what are some of the biggest lessons or just pieces, fun moments, whatever, from being on the Team USA teams and helping coach those? Because that is really cool.
Yeah.
I will be honest, that was really cool. When I told some people, they're like, "Team USA?" I was like, "Yeah,
Yeah,
right here
a
in
lot of people
Marion."
don't even know we have a Team USA because we're not in the Olympics, unfortunately. We didn't, pay the right people to get in the Olympics, but it was an,
Yet.
exhibition sport in 1988, and Japan really, really wanted it. It was on their short list, and the IOC shut it down. But I think it would be a really great addition.
I think
It's
it'd
one
be
of the oldest
awesome.
sports in the world, so, but, I think the biggest thing is with Team USA is bowlers are bowlers everywhere in the world,
Mhm.
and there's and I think because it's not a combative sport, there's not defense, there's not physical contact and things like that. There's this intense competition, but enormous camaraderie between the athletes when it's over. And friendships, genuine friendships. They battle on the lanes and they let the pins do the talking and all that. And sometimes
Uh-huh.
they'll jaw back and forth a little bit sometimes, but it really is a cool thing to see that mannerisms when a good thing happens is so similar across the world in different cultures, and how they get fired up for one another is so similar across cultures. You might not understand what they're saying, but it's the same.
It's the
It's
same.
the same. There's so much consistency in how we approach the game and the sport and the competition and trying to win. And so I think that part's really cool, and everybody's working on mental stuff all the time.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, you have to, right?
Yeah.
You're when you said that, it made me just think about maybe there is more truth to, is the movie The Great Lebowski?
The Big
If you The
Lebowski,
Big
yeah.
Lebowski.
Yeah.
And, I mean, so much of it is set in a bowling scene, but the one guy, he can get upset. He can get upset.
Walter, when the guy fouls over the line. Yeah.
Yeah, yes,
Yes.
exactly, but so there might be a little more truth to that than meets the eye.
Yeah.
Not I mean, obviously, it's blown way out of proportion, but you're
Yeah.
making me realize that when you're actually competing, like, it is cutthroat. It's like that video probably no, there is a social media clip of I forget the scene, like, where it was set in, but the guy, he bowled, and I think he was for a perfect 300, and he was an older fellow.
Who do you think you are? I am. Is that where you're going to?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yes,
Pete
that's him.
Weber. Yeah. So that was 2012 US Open, one of the greatest shots I've ever seen on television. The thing that's not told about that story
Oh,
is the and this is what really the PBA is lacking in people seeing the whole story. When you watch the Masters and golf or whatever, like you see all the qualifying rounds and you see the run up to it. But on
yeah.
a TV show in bowling, you just see the step ladder. You don't see all the qualifying, all the match play that led up to it. And Pete Weber in the last 8 games of match play averaged almost 260 to go from like 24th to the show, and then ran the stepladder to win in one of the most incredible runs you'll ever see.
I didn't know
And
that.
so, yeah, and you watch that on live stream. They don't have that on television. So, like, the whole run up to that was just an incredible feat anyway. Very rarely does somebody make it from 24th to the
I
top
was gonna say,
5 in 8 games of bowling. Like, that doesn't happen.
that's a big ramp. Well, you said I think you said 260 where well, at the start of our conversation, we were saying if it's 230, 240,
Yeah.
it's usually pretty the comparison
260, you're striking 9, 10 times every game. Like, it's a lot. That's a huge average.
I love that video because it does show the
Raw emotion.
raw
Yeah.
emotion.
Yeah.
It's a great way to say
100%.
it.
Yeah.
But, before we wrap it up and Team USA, what are some of the biggest lessons that you've taken away from that position?
I
Because
think there's
that's
I
2 years after Mount Mercy, I
yeah,
believe, right? Yeah.
I think the biggest thing that I've taken from Team USA is that everybody has their challenges. At the
Okay.
nobody's different when it comes down to the raw human being. Like, everybody has self-doubt, everybody questions things, everybody
Mhm.
struggles with the same, mental challenges, struggles shaking off a bad tournament, a bad outing, a bad outcome, and from the best in the world down to the 10-year-old frustrated that he can't figure out how to get a 10 pin, like, it's everybody struggles with outcome oriented mindsets where we're always trying to control outcomes that we can't, and that doesn't change no matter how good we've gotten at the sport. We always have to work on it. And I think
Mhm.
that's really eye opening because you sort of, the professionals, especially in the adult team USA, I mean, I idolize these folks. And then to work with them side by side is a dream come true, but also a really, a really enlightening experience to understand that, people are people. And, we all have the stuff that we're trying to work through and get better at, and always trying to be the best version of themselves. And they never stop trying, no matter how long they've been doing it. They never think that, like Jason Belmonte never thinks that he's done getting better at bowling. Like, he's accomplished everything, but he's like, I'm still going out to win. Like, it's,
And I find that that's why I love the competitiveness and almost the confidence you need to do it. Because today I was just talking to someone about, like, confidence and if you could bring it or not, but I feel like you have to have both of those to keep striving, the people who do keep striving, like, as you keep going into more coaching roles, like, it's always, "How can we make the role better? Like, how can we get better at our position that we're at right now?"
right, exactly. How can
And
I
that's that Mamba mentality
Yeah,
that you were
learn
talking
from
about
other
earlier.
people, surround yourselves with people better than you, push yourselves to do different things and get outside of your comfort zone. I think confidence to me, I mean, I've heard confidence comes from competence is kind of the big thing. Like, the more you practice, the more knowledge you have, the more that's how you get confidence.
Mhm.
But I also think confidence comes from failure. Like, picking yourself
Does.
up from failure makes you more confident the next time. Committing to show up to practice when you don't feel great because you promised to yourself that you're going to practice that day gives you confidence that you're going to hold yourself true to your own word. All of those things build confidence. All of your habits build confidence. When you say you're going to do this, you're going to do it.
It
You're
does.
going to show up.
I don't remember the 3rd, I had it broke down with some research I was looking at, but yeah, it's your preparation, like your practice, it's your
Yeah.
execution, and there's one more piece, but it's the learning from that aspects and then
Right.
reiterating it.
Yeah.
That really does ultimately breed the confidence because that's a question I get. I'm sure you've gotten it time before, but, like, how do we get more confident? Like, how
Right.
like, comes back to those pieces.
Well, and a lot of the greats in all sports, people forget the times that they weren't great. Like, they only
Oh, yeah.
focus on the good. Like, Norm Duke in bowling is just one of the greatest of all time. He was one of the youngest to win a PBA title when he was like 18. And I think it's been beaten now. I know it's been beaten now, but then he didn't win again for like 8 years.
Mhm.
But nobody remembers the 8 year stretch he didn't
No.
win. They talk about all the greatness after that. Like,
I'll add on this story of Kevin Hart he's on someone's podcast where he's actually serious. He's serious 80-90% of the
yeah,
time. Um, but one thing he was talking about was no one knew Kevin Hart when Kevin Hart which was just practicing time and
yeah,
time again, driving 4 hours to get to the city to, do a comedy show for, like, 8 hours straight, and then the next day 8 hours straight, and then drive back home. Like, no one knew Kevin Hart then,
no,
but now people know Kevin Hart, but
yeah,
people didn't know
exactly.
that Kevin Hart.
Yeah, and I think that's true in pretty much every area of
It
life is
is.
people don't know, the beginnings. And I think the good thing is too is they probably don't know as many of your mistakes
Yeah, they
either.
don't know those
Yeah,
failures.
yeah, exactly. So you just you live with the successes and you learn from the failures.
Mhm. Coach Andy, what'd be, like, a final 1 or 2 take-home messages that you'd have that you can think about? You can ponder it for a second too if you need to. But that's how I usually I like to end these with that of like, what's the take home? Because we covered a lot of ground here. And I
Yeah.
love it. That's why I like doing this so much.
I think the first thing I would want to take home, bowling's cool. Like, check it out. Like, give a
Yeah.
deeper dive. Like, I think if you learn the nuance of any sport, you can find it, you can appreciate it.
Yes.
Like, so I try really hard to not diss on any sport, because if I don't know the sport, I got no business talking about it.
Hmm.
And if I don't know the difference between the high level competitive of a sport and the recreational level of a sport, there's are differences. To
It is.
going to play 9 holes with your buddies with the beer cart running around is not the same as as playing on the PGA Tour. Just like bowling professionally and at the world level
It's
is
not
not
at
the
all.
same as going and drinking beer with your buddies on a Tuesday night. Like, it's just not.
Hmm.
So so I think so that's one thing. And then I think two is, have a growth mindset in all things that you do. If you are always willing to continue to expand your mind, read, get in touch with other people that can maybe share a different perspective, like we are here today.
Yeah.
Like, try to learn from other people and try to learn from other experiences, because that will shorten your learning curve. You have to take a little bit less knocks if you can learn from other people who have already learned some
Yeah.
lessons. So I think that's a really important way to kind of shorten your window.
And I'm glad you basically gave an example or two of that too, of what growth mindset actually is. Because I think that's an important piece. Sometimes people don't always. It's another one of those terms like control the controllables that I hear tossed around so much,
Right.
but then people don't always necessarily
Well, what we
implement
do
it
to
to the
hit that
fullest.
lesson home on control the controllables is I make them make a list of the things that are controllable in bowling and the things that aren't. And the list that you can't are always way longer. So then it sort of hits home. What are we talking about here when we say that? Like,
Hmm. It does. And that's the same with the growth mindset. Like you said,
yeah.
learning from people, continuous, keep it going, and go from there. Coach, how could anyone find you if they were interested in talking to you more about this subject or anything else?
So you can reach out. My email is Coach Diercks, and it's DIERCKS @gmail.com. You can find me at May City Pro Shop if you're interested in bowling equipment. I am gone with the college team a lot on the weekends, so
It's
sometimes
a
it's
busy
best to
time.
email me and see when I'm around. We do have other staff that work there as well, but they kind of consider me the fit guru. So if you need a fit, definitely need to set up an appointment for that. And then, you can also check out Mount Mercy Bowling page, and we have a live stream on Sporfy. We have Facebook pages as well, so you can kind of follow the team and follow the action. Both teams are currently ranked #1 in the USBC Power Rank, so hopefully we go into postseason on a positive note.
Well, I will end that with saying that you see this in every space, every circumstance that you're like as good as your trainer, you're as good as your coach, and I think everyone can see now why, at least right now, you guys are #1 on the power ranking. I think the knowledge there is quite intense, and I love this coach. So I appreciate it. I'm going to shake your hand here
All right.
because I'll make that a thumbnail too.
All right. Thanks a
But
lot.
that's all I have. Thanks, everyone. Check out. I also need to say this, but the Mental Performance Playbook. If anyone wants to go over more of these concepts that we talked about, we'll do a free training session with anyone. So check it out. Way to help out. There is no catch. That way, more people get these resources, know how to use them to help their performance. But we'll catch you next week. Peace. And stop it, and that's it.
All right.
Yeah, right.